Let me ask you something real quick. What if I told you that the biggest religious differences in the world today started as a family issue, not a country, not a book, a family? This isn't about attacking anyone. This is about understanding history. Because when you understand the root, the arguments start making more sense. So let's rewind. Way back, before churches, before mosques, before denominations, to one man. Abraham, the common origin, Abraham. One man, one God, one promise. Christians respect him. Jews trace their identity to him. Muslims call him Ibrahim and honor him deeply. Abraham didn't start a religion the way we think today. He started monotheism, belief in one God, in a world full of idols. Now here's where the story gets serious. Abraham had two sons. Isaac, born through Sarah Ishmael, born through Hagar. Both sons mattered. Both were loved. But their paths split. And when paths split, history follows. Isaac versus Ishmael. From Isaac came Jacob. From Jacob came the Israelites. From the Israelites came Judaism. And from Judaism eventually came Christianity, centered on Jesus. From Ishmael came the Arab tribes. Centuries later, from that lineage, came Muhammad. So when people argue today, they're not arguing about random ideas. They're arguing from two branches of the same tree. Same roots, different directions. And once you see that, things start clicking. Christianity enters the picture. Fast forward. Christianity spreads across the Roman world. Jesus is preached as the Messiah. Churches rise. Theology develops. By the time we reach Arabia, Christianity already exists. Not the modern version you see today, but early Christian sects, Jewish communities, and monotheistic thinkers. Arabia wasn't empty. It wasn't ignorant. It was a crossroad of beliefs. Stories of Moses? Known. Stories of Abraham? Known. Stories of Jesus? Known. So when Islam appears later, it doesn't appear in a vacuum. It appears in a world already shaped by biblical ideas. Muhammad and the Quran. Muhammad grows up in Mecca, a city full of idols, trade, and mixed beliefs. Muslims believe that when Muhammad receives revelation, it's not a new God, it's the same God of Abraham. The Quran talks about Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus. That's not coincidence. Islam presents itself as a continuation, not a replacement, of earlier revelations. By the time Islam rises beyond Arabia, something important has already happened. The disagreement is no longer just about belief. It's about identity. At this point, Christianity isn't just a faith, it's an empire. Islam isn't a message. It's becoming a civilization. And when faith mixes with power, history gets loud. Why the split became permanent, Christianity says, God came down the humanity through Jesus. Islam says, humanity must rise to God through submission. That difference sounds small, but it changes everything. Because if Jesus is divine, Christianity cannot bend. And if God has no partners, Islam cannot bend. So instead of understanding each other, both sides locked their doors. Dialogue turned into defense. Defense turned into conflict. Not overnight, over centuries. The early expansions, human ambition enters. Islam spreads rapidly after Muhammad's death. Not just through preaching, but through governance, treaties, and yes, war. Christian empires see this as a threat, not only to faith, but to territory. So battles begin, not because every believer wanted blood, but because leaders realized something dangerous. Religion motivates people more than politics. So swords were raised in God's name, even when God never asked for them. The Crusades, when religion became a weapon. The Crusades weren't just holy wars. They were power struggles dressed in Scripture. Christians marched east, claiming divine command. Muslims defended their lands, believing they were protecting God's truth. Both sides prayed, both sides cried. Both sides believed God was on their side. And Abraham's descendants killed each other, not as brothers, as enemies. How theology hardened into walls. Over time, beliefs stopped being questions. They became labels: Christian, Muslim, Jew. Once labels harden, empathy softens. People stopped asking, "What do we share?" and started asking, "How are you different?" That's how misunderstanding survives for generations. The uncomfortable truth. Here's something no side likes to admit. God didn't fail humanity. Humanity failed humility. Abraham's story was about faith. Moses' story was about obedience. Jesus' story was about love. Muhammad's message was about submission to one God. Yet humans turned these messages into borders. Modern times, the echo of the past. Today, people still argue which religion is true, which one came first, which one is right. But most people don't even know the history. They fight shadows of stories they never studied. And the wars of the past still echo. In politics, media, fear, and stereotypes. Final reflection, bringing it back to Abraham. Let's end where it all began. Abraham didn't teach hatred. He didn't divide his sons. He trusted God and walked forward. Yet his descendants turned faith into competition. 3 religions, 1 God, 1 ancestor. Different paths, but the same origin. And maybe the real question isn't, which religion is right? Maybe the question is, what did we do with the message we were given? If Abraham were alive today, he wouldn't ask which side you're on. He'd ask, do you still fear God? Do you still seek truth? Do you still walk humbly? Because faith was never meant to create wars. It was meant to change hearts. And history proves one thing clearly. When belief loses humility, even brothers become strangers.